All right, everyone. So, welcome back. Let's start creating our mini map together then. Now, this blueprint will follow pretty much the same logic as all of the other ones that we've done so far in this course. It will have an actor type blueprint, and we need to just put that into the scene. And it will also have a widget type blueprint so that we can create the interactions in our interface so you can see things on screen. Okay, so this blueprint is it's actually 100% widget, because the blueprint actor will just basically summon the widget. Okay, it will tell it to bring it into to view for the user. Okay, so let's progress with things actually, and to do it progressively, we'll get our actor blueprint. Okay, and this one here is our BP mini map, and I put here the enable input and enable it with the M key. And this is the routine for the creation of the widget mini map. Okay, so this is what I've created here in advance. I've created the references, I've added the visibility. So everything that we're used to, everything that we've done so far, and it's controlled by or action by the M key on the keyboard. And then it shows or hides our widget on screen. Okay, so here in the widget, I simply created it and I named it. And the first thing we need to do is start thinking about the variables. Okay, so first thing to do, create some variables. Now, those variables I showed in the presentation video are the ones that will be shown here when I put the blueprint into the scene. Okay, so I'll do it right now. Let's do it together. And you need BP minimap. So I put it in a scene here. Just put it anywhere. It doesn't really interfere with the scene physically. So all the details are here. So when I select these variables, they will appear, right? So like the floor plan. You can adjust the width of the window and the pixels and the opacities. So we'll put these variables here and just think about it. Why are we putting them there? Because when we select, it's going to appear here, and then I can select it in the widget. So it doesn't appear in my scene. I just need to enable it, okay, to appear. So let's do this in our blueprint. I create these variables. The first one will be the floor plan file, and I call it plan file. Now, this one is a 2D image, and we have a kind of variable that's useful for this. It's called texture 2D, and it's an object reference. So this is a variable of the texture 2D kind. Good stuff. So I'll leave it open here so that it shows in the scene, and it shows here as well. Okay. Now, by the way, I'll put it in a category as well. I'll call it mini map parameters, just so when we're in the editor, it's more visible. Cool. So there we go, under minimap parameters. And I'll also create a variable to include the width of the window in pixels as well. And I'll name it window width. Cool. And this is going to be a float type variable. And I'll put it in the category for their minimap as well. And the opacity will do too. And the opacity will also be a float variable. And that again will also go under minimap opacity as its name. And over here, we'll put it under the same category. Oh, something I actually haven't shown you yet is that here we can control the minimum and maximum value of the variable, right? So you set your variable up there. And not only can you put the category, but you can also control like your slider range, like you can on scalar parameters that you make in the material. So if I want to limit the opacity so that it only goes from 0 to 1, I can do that here. Okay, it's quite a useful thing to do, just so the person can't go beyond the value of 1. Oh, sorry, I can't go beyond the value of 1. There we go. So I have these here. I need to make these visible, these variables, so we can edit them in the editor. There we go. So here's a minimap opacity, and I can only go up to 1. Okay, and that will help us, a really good feature that. So we got that set up so far. What's next? We created our variables that we need, and we made them visible in the editor, we'll need to create a function to keep the window and the file with this and the file within like the same proportion. So for example, let's go into here. Let's think about the size. 600 by 500 might work, or maybe 1,000 pixels. But to avoid it going too big, we don't want it taking over the screen. We need to just think about the size, okay? And adjust the width and the height accordingly. So the JPEG file goes there, and we can simply use the rule of 3 calculations to perform this actually. You may have heard about this, you may not, but I'll show you anyway. You can come here, and just below this section, let's just pull that down. I can create a sequence to keep things organized. So let's bring out a sequence. Okay, so it's going to start from here, and the calculation that's going to be made, I can do just below. So I'll get the file and we'll put it in there manually, and it will find out the file's proportion, okay, its ratio, or how many pixels it has for the width and the height. So it's able to get all that information for us at the beginning, okay, and it can work parallel with this information below. So I can put it in and correct the scale and the height, and I'll explain as we do this together, okay. So first thing we need to do is get the information from the file. So here's the stored variable. So I've got the variable here on our event graph now, and then I have to get its size. So there's a node called get size X and Y, okay, width and height. And I'll also get the other height, or the height, which is Y. Okay, so X is the width, Y is the height. Good stuff. So that will help us to be able to control or get the information and then control it. So I need to apply a rule of 3 here. So this is what I was talking about earlier. How's this going to work? Well, I made this file so we could talk about it, and I can show you on screen. So I have here the file width, all right? So the width of the image in the file, our floor plan. And I have the width of the window, okay, which is our screen, and the window that the minimap is going to appear. And I have the height of the image in the file, and I also have the window height of where the minimap is going to appear on the screen. Okay, so we already have the file width, which is the file we've created, the file height, the window width that we're going to define as the area on the screen, and when it's open, that is, and the height as well. So this is the rule of 3. So we have to measure here the window height. So we'll do almost like a multiplication. So I'll call this X and this one Y, this one A, and this one B. Okay, so what I have to do is multiply one by the other, essentially, and then add them up to find the sum. So it should be X times B equals Y times A. So I want to find out what B is. So it's Y times A divided by X. So what would Y be? Well, I have to multiply the file height by the width of the window that I want. So let's do this together, and you'll see that how it makes sense. So the file size is Y, and I'll multiply it by the variable where I'm going to put the measurement. Okay, so it's this times this, and I'll just divide as well. So I'll do a divide by X, which is the file width, and then I'll be able to get the result of the calculation. So get divide by the original window width, plug that in, cool. And then this will generate a result for us, which is the window height. Okay, so let's get that and that should help us get in the correct proportion. So let's promote to a variable and name it window height. Okay, so for now, there's no flow control for this, and it's just basically a calculation for us. And we just need to link this to here. So when I start the game by pressing play, it's going to then automatically, as part of the sequence, perform this calculation based on all the information I've put in. Okay, so based on the information the file that the file gives us as well. So it'll perform the calculation, return this height. Okay, so I need to save this and store it and give it a comment. And we call it get minimap proportion. Okay, and the proportions of my minimap based on the information I provide is what's going to be given. So now we can go to the widget, and we're done here for now. We'll go to the widget. Okay, so how will it look in the widget? Well, we simply need to have an image inserted here in this corner, right? And that's going to store the image for us that we put in here, the floor plan. Okay. So let's see how we can do that. The first thing I need to do is create a canvas, and that's going to store or hold the image for us so it's not just floating around. Okay, I'll put it here and add an anchor to the upper right corner because I want my mini map to be in the top right corner. So it's out of the way, and I'll place it here. First, I'll go to align it by 0 and then put it up in the upper right corner. Okay, and I'll make a margin as well, so it's not too close to the edge. Maybe a margin of -40 here and 40 there. Okay, so that sort of margin, and enable size to content so that it adopts the measurement of what is going in there. Okay, so that's our canvas. So now I need to add our image. Just put it under the hierarchy, and I'm going to name this so I don't get confused. Plan file, and then the plan JPEG file will go on that. Okay. Okay, so the JPEG file will be in there, and that's going to be anchored to the upper right corner. And I'll use a generic measurement just for now, just to put it in place. Okay, I think that'll do. Right there. Cool. Just so we can visualize it. Okay, and then it's going to adopt the image when we drop it in. So now we have to get the file that we're going to put here. So the plan is, we'll put it in here. Bring the file in there. So I have to do this via a function. Okay, we have to do this via bind. Remember, we looked at bind in a previous class. Okay, so you're familiar with this already. So let's think, who controls the appearance of this image? Well, it's this, isn't it? It's the brush. So I'll apply the bind to the brush and create this binding here. Okay, so I've created it already. Get plan JPEG file brush. So it's where the binding was created. So let's create a function to do this, to get the image that we put here and put it in the appearance slot. So the image is in BP minimap. So I need to get its reference. So let's go to get all actors of class. Hopefully this is reminding you of the previous course we did, the previous class. Just go to BP minimap. Okay, so we get a copy as well. Remember now? It's all coming back now, isn't it? Okay, so now I want to get the image after this. So I'll get my variable, I'll get my variable, which is a plan file. So get the plan file. There we go. Okay, that's the variable we created here. So what else will we need? Well, we need to get that image and add it in there. Okay, and I'll also get the measurements that I want this image to have. Cool. So based on the calculations we made here, it should all fit in just right in the right proportions. Here, still in the binding, I'll get the window width as well. Get window width and also the window height. Window height. Cool. Okay, so we got our three variables, and now I'll link all of this to my return node. but they are free here. Remember what we said about the structure pin? We can right click, do you remember, and split it. So rather than just try and drag it out, we can right click and split the pin. Or you can make a slate brush actually, which can do the same thing. Okay, it's a bit bigger though, isn't it? Yeah, so you could use that one. So what's the image size? Well, it's this width times the height. And here I can split, and then size is X. Size X is the width. Let me just invert that. There we go. Size Y is the height. And here the plan file. This is the plan file, so that's going to link to the image. Okay. Perfect. Let's tidy it up. So what we did here was we were getting all of these variables that we already created, and we put them in the widget. Okay. So it could reference it as well. And you'll see how well this works in a moment. So since this image will adopt the proportions from this binding, our canvas is set to size to content, and then it's going to follow the information we tell it to. Okay. So why did I use canvas and not simply the image? Well, the reason for that is that I wanted the image pivot to be the canvas. Okay. And as we'll see later on, we'll make our image have the correct proportions and the position of the icon based on this anchor point. Okay. So let's test this and see it working. But first we have to put we have to insert our actor, make sure that's in there before pressing play. Okay. And your image as well, or otherwise it won't appear, obviously, will it? So I left the image down here. There we go. There's our floor plan file that goes in there. Okay. Of course, you can import whichever one you want, and it will get the proportions and adjust it according to the size that we put here. So I'm going to use now 1200 to make it more visible in this screen, so it's not too small. And then we can adjust this later on. Okay. So it will be big, but that's no problem. The opacity is missing, so we haven't made this variable yet, but let's just make that here. And let's just add the opacity as well. The opacity is here under color, right? So here we can create a binding to handle these parameters for us. So go create binding. This one's going to be a lot simpler. Okay, so don't worry. It'll be a lot easier to create this one. So what we need to do here is I'll get the reference. And one thing I forgot is to promote this to a variable. I should have done that before. So let's just cancel that. Go to promote to variable. And then we need to name it BP Minimap reference. Okay, so then it will store it, or else we'll just have to link it again in another binding. Okay, and starting from here, I can link these as well. Cool. Okay, right. Glad I remember that. So let's go back and get our minimap reference here and sort out the binding for the opacity. So I'll get the value, okay, and I can type the opacity here. So let's do this. Let's get our minimap, get minimap opacity. There we go. And we'll link this, but this is also a structure pin, isn't it? So remember, we need to do the same thing. You can do make linear color, okay, so that we can connect them. And that's going to take the result information from what we put into here. So we need it to go into alpha so it can control the opacity. And here I have to set everything, or else it's going to go to 0. Okay, so we need to correct this. So have it at 1. Okay, and also alpha's at 1. So make this the right values, 1, 1, 1. Otherwise, it's just going to look strange. Okay. So I think we've done everything. Let's just come back here now. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to be transparent, or invisible if it's 0. So let's put it to 1. Something we could do is make the variable have a default value of 1. That might help actually. Okay, just so it doesn't appear as 0. And then we can leave the window width set as a standard size, even though we can change it. We don't want it to be 0 though, do we? We don't want it to cause confusion. Okay, so let's test this and see if it works. So I press M on the keyboard, and there we go. It appears. But it didn't get the size, did it? So it seemed like it's locked. I think maybe I forgot something. Let's see. Let's go to the designer. Under the image, it's here, right? Size to content has to be enabled. So what happens is it's going to get the measurement that we put in, and it will, or the measurement from the image, and it will adapt the window. So if I leave this unticked, then it's not going to work properly. So let's try again. So press M. Okay, there we go. So the file, the opacity, and the size is now working. Let's test the other measurements to see if they work. If we can adjust some things here, maybe put 800. Okay. And see, there we go. See how quickly you can do that by adjusting the size, all because we put those calculations. Let's go back to 1200. So I know it's a different way of doing it, but it gives you more control, doesn't it, in the viewport? Nice. Okay, so as we've seen, all of this is pretty much a widget, okay, with a little bit of math calculations, but it gives us the ability to adjust the size and the opacity in a really easy way. In the next part, we'll add our character icon in the widget and start talking about syncing the movement of the first person, okay, so you can see where you are in relation to the map. But we'll do that in the next class. See you then.